Hi. I got my period when I was 11 years old, and even though the cramps were not nearly as painful then as they are now, it was made a complete hellscape because of one single person, my mother. Why? Thank you for asking, let me tell you. Now, a little context for you. I was not looking forward to this day at all. You see, unlike my young girl peers at the time, I feared adulthood with an unbridled passion. I did not want to be considered a woman nor an adult because I knew the second I was, the kindness would stop, the gentility would cease, because the second I threaded the line between girlhood and womanhood, I knew that I would be treated like I had responsibilities, like my self-esteem wouldn't shatter like a wet napkin on a Denny's table. So as soon as I saw that little red speck in my My Little Pony panties, I panicked. My life was over. But, unfortunately, it was not, because just as that thought had hit my tiny little brain, the cramps had hit my uterus. I doubled over on the floor in agony, a pain that now I would consider child's play, but at the time it was bad. Once I came to my senses, I ran to my mother and I said, "Mother, I have started my menstruation." And as I was seeking solace in my mother, crying to her about how my life was over, she could not be more excited. "You're a woman now! Oh, look at you, you started your period," she exclaimed. Now, I don't know about you, but when I am recently finding out that I am going to be painfully bleeding internally for the rest of my life once a month, I'm not exactly seeking excitement as a response. Once she had calmed down long enough to give me 2 tablets of Tylenol, I sought silence in my room. I planned to curl up in a ball and decompose there, but unfortunately I couldn't, because this is not the end of the story, my friends, not at all. You see, immediately after my mother found out about my menstruation problem, she went to immediately text her friend, not her best friend, her friend, about how her daughter was now bleeding from her uterus. Oh, what glee! Egads, how they grow up! Unbeknownst to her, however, she would receive the same text back, for her friend's daughter had just started her period as well. Hooray! 2 mothers could bond over their daughter's new suffering. My mother, overjoyed, ran to my room to tell me. My reaction was about as much as you would expect. I was like, "Great! I will make sure to send her a condolence letter." I foolishly thought it was over there, but my mother would not let it happen. For the next afternoon, she blindfolded me, told me to get in the car and not ask any questions. Now, I love spontaneity as much as the next person, but seeing as I felt like I was dying inside and out, and my mother's words sounded quite like she was going to finish the job, I was not too excited to enter those van doors. But me being the 11-year-old people-pleaser I immediately jumped into that 2002 Chrysler Voyager, only accompanied by the blackness that was all-encompassing due to the blindfold, but none of the relief that the void of death provides. It took a 5-minute drive and a lot of existentialism, but we finally reached our destination, and as soon as that blindfold was taken off of my eyes, I was ecstatic. It was the Top Hat Tea Shop. Now, if you don't know what the Top Hat Tea Shop is, let me tell you. It is the finest place on this earth. It's a small little tea shop in my hometown that serves tea of the hot and cold variety in cute little teacups with little scones, and they give you cute little hats you can wear, and the decor is enough for any little girl or geriatric woman to be shaking in their boots. A place that welcomes all, especially little girls with birthdays, and especially me, who will give any excuse to dress up and drink from fine china like a lady-in-waiting. And so I go, "Oh, goody! Mummy has learned to know how empathy works. I can now eat a debaucherous amount of scones and wash it all down with my shame in some Earl Grey." I am skipping in excitement at this point to get into those doors, and as soon as I open them, I am met with the brown irises of what will be my counterpart for the next 2 insufferable hours. My acquaintance, my mother's friend's daughter, sits before me, a table to her right empty, and another blow to my pubescent psyche. It is then and only then that the realization of our fates finally sets in, and we know that the next coming hours will be devoid of all hope in the happiest place on earth. Immediately upon arrival, and I tell you, I could not even sit down before it happened, we are adorned with an ungodly amount of Mardi Gras beads, one of which had an emblem of comedy tragedy masks and felt all too poignant and audacious for the moment. We couldn't even order our food in peace. There was no safety, for the second the waitress showed up at the table, my mother immediately exclaimed, "Our daughters are on their periods! Can we have some food, please?" I would like to add that the single male waiter, upon arriving in the room, heard that and then slowly backed out of the room, escaping the conversation when I wish I could myself. She was approaching no man's land at this point, and as our food and drinks arrived, the raspberry tea sat there and mocked us as our mothers proceeded to compare our flows. My friend was now an ally in war at this moment, and we finally were able to seek some form of solace as we both made an excuse to leave the table to go to the bathroom to change our pads. A moment our mothers thought we were bonding over our periods in the bathroom was merely us panicking, crying, holding each other, and bonding in the moment of trauma. We tried anything and everything to come up with an excuse, blending our collective minds to try and form a way out of this moment. But unfortunately, we couldn't. There was no getting out of this moment. So as we stood there in the realization that our fate was finally and truly set, we held hands, said a little prayer, and proceeded to walk out to face whatever was coming our way. We sat there for 2 straight hours, dead inside, our faces and our hearts numb, but not our stomachs. Our mothers laughed the day away while we sat there in silence, suffering. When I tell you the CIA should use this as a tactic to get information, it is correct, for this was torturous agony. I could no longer blame my mother's lack of empathy on being blinded by her hubris after a hysterectomy. She had gone too far. What once had been a trusted bond and a sacred relationship had been tainted forever, and the relationship with my mother suffered as well. I could no longer look at raspberry tea the same way. Strawberry shortcake mocked me. I forever loathed the beloved Disney song Let It Go because of my mother's Let It Flow adaptation. I was ruined, crumbled, dismayed, disrespected. Now, whenever the devil's juice cleanse comes to strike me down once a month, I am humbled. Yes, my pain was lesser then than now, but the suffering was greater.